Oh, you just moved at the wrong time then, yes?
Ah,
Just caught you at the beginning of the video if you're watching on YouTube. But wherever you're watching or listening, welcome back. We are here again for episode number 7. It was 6, definitely. Yeah, it is 7 because it was 6 last week. You took the mickey out my being from Burnley and having 6 fingers, blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, we must be on 7. So, yeah, welcome to anybody listening on Spotify, anybody watching on YouTube. You can see us do this. Everybody do this. Can't see that on Spotify, unfortunately. So if you are listening on Spotify, go over and watch the video as well. Because we're three handsome chaps, aren't we? But if you are, wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching, please give us a like, big thumbs up, and subscribe to hear the new content when it comes out. Because after 7 weeks, we are still at it. We're still going for it. So I welcome you. So we are joined once again by Sharafat Shah and Mr. Yasser Sufi. Oh, gosh. I wore a Burnley shirt once.
sorry, I just had to adjust my seat then for a second.
Burnley shirt once. That's because we were champions. You've achieved nothing this season, so get your shirt out the picture. Otherwise, I'll make our overlay a little bit bigger. Just to cut that badge out. I have that ability now. I have that ability.
Listen,
how are you, gents?
Oh, good. You're looking a bit
Very well,
brown.
thank you.
I'm looking what?
You're looking a bit browner. You've been in sun.
Sun's been out on it. Look at there. Oh, you can't see, can you, because of the blurry? Yeah, there's some tan lines going on, look. Eh?
He's a wannabe. You want to be like Shaz.
He does, doesn't he?
Getting there, aren't I? Ramadan.
I'm liking the colour, though.
And then the colour's coming back now. Nearly there.
Yes, he's got the tan coming on. He's got the beard there. He took part in Ramadan. He's nearly there, isn't he?
Telling you, mate. It suits you, though, honestly.
What, does really a bit of colour?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not purposely that white. It's not through choice. I'm purposely that white for the rest of the year, mate. I don't think I'll avoid sunlight. I do try and tan. This is as good as it gets. It don't get any better than this, unfortunately.
I think Shaz has put a bit of colour on as well, mate. Just that. Yeah, but just that light at the top is just.
I knew that would get mentioned again today. There you go.
That's better.
There you go. All right, I'll keep it switched off then.
There we go. Look, we're all sorted. Anything good happened for you boys this week? Any good news?
Good news, not so much.
No.
I had a good hike on Saturday. Went to Lakes, beautiful place. Recommend it. Just got out there, mate. Got some sun, some good old vitamin D, and just enjoyed the weather. Good bank holiday for everyone, I guess, and couldn't have picked a better weekend for a bank holiday.
Yeah, that's what you want, innit?
The weather's been fantastic this weekend, but I've got some really bad news that I got yesterday morning. Was a very good friend of mine and an avid Rovers fan, Bob Thind, local businessman as well, passed away, unfortunately, on, I think it was Saturday evening. We don't know how or what, but absolutely devastated, and thoughts and prayers go out to Charlotte, Oliver, and to Grace as well. And I'll see you soon, guys.
Definitely. How old was he, Shaz?
53.
Wow.
I'm surprised you don't know him. He was they sponsored a few games at Rovers as well.
Did he? What's his company?
Elite Hardware.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, lovely guy.
That's sad, mate.
Yeah, pass on our condolences to the family as well, Shaz, please.
Yeah, I will do. I'll pop round tomorrow and see them.
So we're going to crack on. There are a couple of topics, but you know us, we might end up getting sidelined, getting sidetracked, like we say every week, or like I say to you every week. We don't really mind where it goes. It is a chat. It is just us being authentically us. So I'll apologise in advance for any bad language. I did try to cut it all out last week. I may have missed one or two. Again, apologies, but we're not being what we're not, are we? That wasn't the point of this. So I want to start with you boys about a topic that's taken over the news this week. And it is about a certain gentleman who used to present This Morning, Mr. Phillip Schofield. Now, Phillip Schofield's been on This Morning for a number of years. I think it was 16 years. He's been on television for far longer than that. Yes. I remember Gordon the Gopher as a kid. I remember Phillip being a friendly face on Saturday morning television and continuing to be a friendly face through weekday morning television when he was on This Morning, if I ever had the opportunity to watch it. Don't get me wrong, wasn't my kind of show. However, obviously we all knew him as he was a bit of a national treasure. I think that's fair to say, wasn't it? It was a national treasure. Happily married man, or so it would seem. A couple of daughters, and then one day, unsurprising to some, but surprising probably to most of the nation, he came out and announced he was homosexual on This Morning with his partner in crime, Holly Willoughby, which was hailed as a brave move at the time. I think, again, fair to say that. It then started to transpire that he may not have come out of his own accord and that there was potentially a young gentleman involved who was a showrunner on This Morning. And as that story starts to escalate, it sort of then disappeared for a little bit up until the rift. So I think that's how it's come back into the news, hasn't it?
The so-called rift, they say, anyway.
The so-called rift. So yeah. Phillip and Holly have apparently had a rift that they were trying to resolve. As so the story goes, it's got to the point where they couldn't, and then suddenly he's being cut off from This Morning. And all this starts to transpire now about this young gentleman who is significantly his junior. I don't know what the age gap is. It must be 35, 36 years, something like that.
More, mate.
But is it more? 40 years then?
40 years, yeah.
Which again isn't a massive issue, is it? No, if you age, well, personally to me, age is irrelevant. Anyway, we'll get into that in a minute. But as the story starts to bumble down the hill, it turns out that he met him when he was very young. Now, some places are saying he was as young as 10 when he went to visit his theatre school, and there's other reports saying that he was about 15 when he friended Phillip, or Phillip friended him on social media, and he asked for a job as a runner on This Morning. Now, I might be sketchy with some of the things that I know there, or with some of the details.
Yeah.
However, I just really want to pick up your thoughts on the whole thing, and if you've anything to add to the to anything that I've just said, really, and what are your thoughts on it? Because and we'll get into it. Who wants to start us off? Go on, Shaz.
I'll as usual. I'll go first. Do you know what? I sort of feel sorry for Phillip Schofield. I've always liked him. As you said, Phil, you know, he is a national treasure, and he's been an ever present personality from me growing up as well. I remember him on, the Cube, obviously This Morning, going live. Now, you whippersnappers might not remember going live and Gordon the Gopher and all that sort of stuff. And the first I remember Phillip Schofield being on TV was in children's TV programs, and it was a program called something like The Cupboard or The Closet or something like that. And maybe Phil, you should have stayed in it, mate, because it looks like this, whatever's happened here, could be the end of your career. Now, from what you said, Phil, this has been going on, it looks like, since about 2020, when and that was before Phillip Schofield came out, and when he was still married to his wife. So he came out then, and it also transpired that this was going on then as well. And the other party involved is considerably younger. And according to Phillip Schofield, the whole thing was unwise yet legal. And rumours were circulating during 2020, and I hear that Holly Willoughby asked Phillip Schofield if this was true, and he said no, not at all. Now, according to Holly Willoughby, the first that she knew about it was when it was actually made public. Now, we were led to believe that he'd fallen out with Holly Willoughby and other people on the show, and that rift between him and Holly was what made him leave the show. But it's transpired since then that that's not the case, and this is actually the truth. Because there's other people that have been on the show that were saying that the whole show and everything is toxic on there, and the whole management and what have you. And but that's only like I think there's a doctor that comes on the show, and he's been saying all that sort of stuff about it as well. But everybody else has been very complimentary about the show. Dermot and his other colleague, and I can't remember her name, have been presenting it today.
Alison Hammond.
That's it, yes. And they all said how much of a pleasure it is to be on the show. And Giles Brandreth as well also made a point of making sure that everybody knew how much of a pleasure it is being on the show. So not sure what to believe here. But the question, though, if this relationship was not illegal and his wife knew, I'm assuming his wife knew about this as well, because I'm assuming before he actually came out, he told his wife about it, so I'm assuming that his wife would have known about it before the rest of the world did, and that she knew about all this. But so why all the fuss, Philip? You know, why resign? Why destroy your career? Doesn't make sense. If it's all so innocent, why? You know, it was all above board. You were married, you came out as gay, and you had a relationship with somebody. Just say that and carry on with the rest of your career. And I've also found out that the agency that represented him has turned their back on him as well. So it just looks like the end of, unfortunately, the end of Phillip Schofield's career. And I'm a little bit saddened by that because I really like him. Seems like a decent bloke. But why all the fuss, Phil? Yeah. It's just questions. It's raised more questions than not.
I'm going to be honest with you, gents, here. I can't believe how fondly we're still talking about him. I can't believe how the media, and I'll be honest with you, both of you as well, national treasure, wife ill, call it for what it is. I think there's going to be a lot more coming out of the woodwork. And I think there's going to be I think we only know a little bit about what we know so far. If this was a young girl that he'd met at the age of 10 or 12, and there's absolutely no doubt whatsoever he met, I know the name, but I won't say the name. He met this boy at the age well before 15. Now, can you not use the word grooming in that instance? Why can we not use that word? Because in any other instance, would you be using the word grooming? The other fact for me is, and there's been some good quality Twitter accounts pointing out some really, really disturbing facts. So Philip has a good friend, and it actually shares the same surname as him, called Simon Schofield. And they're very good friends. And when Philip came out, there's lots of press about him spending a lot of time with Simon Schofield to help him get over whatever trauma he was going through at the time. And there's lots of press coverage around his relationship with Simon Schofield in terms of a good friend, etc. No relationship whatsoever. But it came out yesterday that Simon co-owns the theatre company where this young man went to theatre school. And it was Simon who recommended this young man to Philip. Now, it doesn't take a genius to put two and two together, but I feel there's a lot more below the surface and some things that we only know. And one of the first things that came out when Philip put his statement out was, I lied to everyone. I'm so sorry about lying. I should have told the truth, but nothing I did was illegal. Now, what you did might not have been illegal, but my thoughts on this are, if it was someone else who had met someone at the age of 15 and then had a relationship with them at the age of, say, 16 or 17 or 18 or whatever that age was, we would be calling it grooming. And I don't know why, how you feel, but I do know that there's a picture of him, Simon, and Philip with this young lad. And this young lad looks at the age of 12, 13 at the time, if not younger. And there's a picture of the three of them together when this young lad doesn't look any older than 13. And there's Philip on one side, Simon on the other, and this young lad in the middle. For me, there's a lot we don't know about this at the moment yet. There's a lot where we only know what we've been told. And I do feel there's a lot more to come out. And but I wouldn't say it's a cover up, but at the moment, so it's almost as if let's try and put as much damage limitation to this as possible. I would not describe him as a national treasure anymore if that is the case, and that's what was transpired. So I don't think we're using these words for anyone else.
But just to pull that, we didn't call him a national treasure, but he certainly was.
It was, yeah.
Pre this, it was certainly what you would describe as a national treasure.
I call him a national treasure. I think he is a national treasure. However, yes, if it's proven that he has been guilty of untoward behavior, of grooming and what have you, then he would cease to be, in my view, a national treasure. Likewise, and I'm not comparing him to him at all. Likewise, Rolf Harris was a national treasure. The guy went and did the Queen's portrait. And if that isn't a national treasure at the time, who is? Nobody would get anywhere near the Queen to do anything. Never mind spend hours in front of her doing a portrait. And next thing you know, we hear all sorts, and he's found guilty of grooming and what have you. And he's now wiped off the face of all national treasure records. Okay, so
I just feel, I just personally feel that we're still speaking very fondly of someone who, dig a bit deeper into this, and look, below the surface in terms of what we've been told. And I also find, the headlines at the moment are still very, very kind to him, and very, very, careful with what they're saying. But Philip's currently 61. This lad, they're saying, is currently around 20. There are pictures of them 7-8 years ago. There are pictures of them together when this young lad was under the age of 16. And
doesn't prove any wrongdoing, though, does it?
It does not. But what I would say is, you can't, 100% innocent until proven guilty. 100%. But if this was someone else who wasn't a national treasure, then they'd be treated a lot more harshly than what Philip's getting at the moment.
Agreed. I mean, that reputation, the reputation that somebody has, is the key, really, because that reputation then also dictates the attitude towards them as well. Until, as you said, yes, until it's proved that anything untoward has been going on. But until then, like all the other people have been given the opportunity to defend themselves. And as Phil said, it could be all totally innocent. And I hope it is. I hope to God it is. all innocent, because he's a much loved TV personality, and he's been on our TVs for God knows how long, and he's been everywhere, and he's part of the fabric of British television as well. And I'm just hoping to God that what we're hearing is all innocent, and that it will be proven so as well.
my 2 pence on it. I believe he's not a particularly nice bloke. From tales that I heard pre all this, I heard he's a bit cantankerous, a little bit up himself, a little bit nice when the camera's off, but not so when the camera's on. There have been long-running feuds with Eamon and Ruth, haven't there? Eamon Holmes and his wife Ruth, who used to do a spot on This Morning, who were there at the time when he came out on telly. There's something obviously happened with his co-host and one of his closest friends, Holly. Now, no one's quite sure what that is, but they think it's about his brother. So his brother has recently been jailed, hasn't he, for I want to say sexual assault, but I'm not 100% sure on that on what the charge is. But it's something, isn't it?
Something like that, yes.
Something along those lines. That I'm not just a disclaimer, I don't know what that charge is. And there is a rumour going around that it's because he didn't tell Holly that his brother was being charged, or was even up in court to be sentenced or to face trial. Sorry. I don't care enough about Phillip Schofield, I don't think, really, to start diving into some of the stuff. I'm also incredibly wary when it comes to the press and the social media aspect. And I've seen some of the stuff that Yas was just talking about from some, what you'd probably say are truthful elements or truthful people on Twitter. But there's a lot of people on social media, especially from these accounts that you'd say are trustworthy, that sometimes just want to stick the knife in for their own gain. So I'm always a little bit wary of possibly listening to those facts. I can't say I've seen any positive headlines about him either. But again, I don't particularly follow any news outlets either. I think I follow that LBC News that hasn't been really kind or unkind along the way. And I think it will all come out, and I don't think it's going to come out particularly well for him. I'm not. I'm going to say I'm a bit like Shaz, but I'm not really, because I think Shaz, obviously, has feelings either one way or the other, and I don't really. Like most things, it doesn't particularly concern me or anything that I do.
Do you not think he's been protected because of his reputation somewhat?
He can't have been protected because he's had to resign. He can't be. If he was
this is in 2023. Do you not think anyone on that show knew before then?
Oh, listen, I think in organisations like that, and the BBC is a prime example for the Jimmy Savile stuff over the years. But then again, I think every organisation like that, the top people in that organisation are protected. Government being one, BBC being another with Jimmy Savile. I think ITV now has its own scandal looming, inevitably. I don't think he'll be the first. I don't think he'll be the last person to lose his job at ITV either. They are protected, aren't they? And that's what we were talking about last week. There's that element of I'm untouchable. Once you get to a certain status level, you become untouchable, and you can do whatever you want to do. Mm. And regardless of who it is, for a human, that must be quite difficult. That must be quite a difficult spot to be in, knowing that whatever you do, whether it be wrong or right, there will be hundreds of people behind you that will cover up that mistake for you. And it must be quite addictive, knowing that you can do whatever you want. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
I know what you mean. Quite difficult to process that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. The only difference is I wouldn't call it a mistake. I'd call it sometimes behaviour that shouldn't, we shouldn't accept as, normal. And a lot of the times it's in the, you mentioned the government. A lot of the times it was breaking the law where it was covered up. and we discussed this last week. But in Philip's case, again, there's a lot of strong rumors that he came out 3 years ago because this relationship with this, I don't know what his position was. I think he said he was a runner on the show.
Showrunner.
Yeah. So a lot of the what I've read is he came out 3 years ago because this was going to be coming out. Someone was, going to get a hold of the story, and that's why he came out at the time, to protect himself to a degree. So,
but is that see? This is the thing where it all starts to. This is the thing where it all starts to just lose a little bit of focus for me. Has that actually happened because of? Has he actually come out because of this relationship being found out, or has somebody linked the relationship after the fact and then said, "Oh, he's done that because of the relationship"? Nobody actually knows that, do they?
They don't.
Well, I think.
But what do we know right now?
Well, what you were saying, Yas, is that the worrying thing is that there may be more to come out in time to come, like there has with other people in the media, and we later found out that they were getting away with God knows what. I'm just worried that there isn't much positivity going on about him in the press. Nobody's talking very positively about it, and that worries me. Being a fan of his, that worries me. That worries me, thinking, well, if there's no net positivity coming out now, what's going to come out in time to come? Are people holding on to some stories about it? Now that he's out of it, now that his agents have dropped him as well, are the floodgates going to open now to more accusations and to more of an insight into what has actually been going on? It's worrying, really. It's worrying to say that, a much loved person, I keep saying that, has got to that level as the others have. I hope not.
I'll just put something in the mix. Just put this, and this is fact. This is not made up. His best friend co-owns a theatre company where this lad went to theatre school.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just something that happened that there was someone who was employed on the show. His best friend was actually co-owner of the theatre company where this lad went. There's a picture of the three of them together.
Yeah, I've seen it.
7-8 years ago.
Doesn't look very old there, does he?
It doesn't take a genius to then say what is going on.
But so, as I like to play devil's advocate, so Philip's gone in, met this lad, done some photos with everybody. He might have done. No one knows that, do they? No one knows that bit. Yeah. At the time then when he's whatever age he was, and what's his name? What did you say the other Schofield was called?
Simon Schofield.
So Simon said, "What do you want to do, young lad? I want to be a showrunner for. I want to learn to be a showrunner and possibly do some presenting. Oh, remember Phillip Schofield came in. He's a good mate of mine. Who's to say there's anything happened between those years of that photo being taken up until the point when he's got a job? And who's to say that he's done the favour for the young lad and not done the favour for his mate?
There's probably photos with everybody, with everyone in there. I mean, if you take pictures out in isolation, you can make anything up about anybody, couldn't you?
This photo is a bit disturbing. I'll just put it that way.
Right. Well, I've not seen the photo, so I'll have a troll on socials and see what I can find.
Simon has his hand on the lap of the lad. And this lad looks no older than 13 in this photo. Right? I'm not innocent until proven guilty, but all I would say is we shouldn't be calling someone until we know the full facts. I just question why there's so much still positivity. There is, honestly. I know you're saying you haven't seen much, but no one's doing a witch hunt against Phillip Schofield. Whereas if it was someone else who wasn't as respected, who wasn't held to such, adulation by so many people, I feel like the headlines would be a lot stronger. People would be digging in a lot, digging into this a lot deeper and looking beyond what we've been told. And my, thing on this at the moment is we've only been told what we need to know because what was going to come out. We haven't been told anything else. And he's been protected. That's what I get from this.
And having said that, his employers have also said that they carried out an investigation in 2020 when these rumours came about, and that both parties at the time denied these accusations, and that as far as they're concerned, and as an employer, they left it at that. And when asked, have you done any, are you in the wrong? His employer said, no, we haven't done anything wrong. They carried out an investigation. If you're an employer and you interview people and you investigate certain allegations and you've got no other evidence than them saying yes or no, what else can you do? For
Holly
ITV,
Willoughby came out. Holly Willoughby
I think
came
they
out
did.
yesterday as well, saying she was told she'd asked Philip and he'd said no.
And he said no as well, yes. And the first she knew about it is when he revealed it to the world that he'd actually lied about it.
Do you think this is going to be another Jimmy Savile incident?
I hope not. I
Where-
really
Because
hope not.
Jimmy was
went,
a different animal in a
Well-
sense where what he was, what his I wouldn't compare the two at all because Jimmy for me was
in the same vein, yes, we went decades with that guy on our television screens, openly getting away with what he got away with. We went decades.
We did.
Yeah.
Do we think that? So it's a bit of a two-part. Do we think that Philip will potentially get a lot more shade because of the Jimmy Savile stuff, and he will be accused of things that maybe aren't even true purely because he's a TV personality taking advantage of someone so young? Or do we think that we've not learned anything from a Jimmy Savile incidents, and that we're still, that these corporations are still trying to cover up things that they shouldn't be covering up?
I don't think we've learned from it. I really don't. I tell you what, if this is another one of those cases, then we've definitely not learned from it. We've had Gary Glitter, right? I can name three off the top of my head. We've had Gary Glitter, right? Proved. We've got Jimmy Savile, proved that he's been doing what people say he's been doing. Rolf Harris, who's died recently, right? Who, as I mentioned before, I've even done portraits of the Queen, proved, right, that he'd abused children, right? So what have we learned? Nothing. And who else has been involved with this sort of stuff?
One thing, and what was the guy called in Hollywood? The director,
Jeffrey Epstein.
The other guy, Harvey Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein.
Because they have a position of power.
Yes.
It gets to them, and they use that to their advantage, and it's really difficult. I can imagine for someone trying to make it in an industry where they have someone abusing that power and using that to their advantage. I'm not saying, I knew the comparison would happen, but I don't think that, we can make that comparison yet because, Jimmy was a monster, absolute monster. But I do get it in terms of how it was covered up, what we, and if you compare it like that, what I feel like what we've been told so far is the bare minimum of what's happened. And I would say, if you were working in a workplace where there was something happening between two people, there would be rumors circulating. People would know.
Yeah.
It's very hard to hide something like that within a work.
There were, though, that's what they're saying. In 2020,
Yes.
There were rumors circulating.
There you go. So why has it been hidden until now when there was a rift between him and Holly? That's when it came out. It came out after he denied it to the Daily Mail in an interview. And he came out then and said it. So I feel like we're only getting what we've been told so far, which is, and for some reason, he's been protected again.
Well, I mean, you talk about people in power and what have you. That's gone on since the beginning of time. People in power have been abusing their positions, haven't they? We know that. and people in power will keep on abusing their positions. But have these people got enough of that power to abuse that position and not get found out? I don't think they are, because they are beginning to get found out now. But other people in power, like, you know, kings and queens and presidents and prime ministers and what have you, I still think there's quite a lot going on at that level that we will never find out, that it will never be in the public knowledge. But these people aren't that high up in the hierarchy, are they?
Go on, Phil.
Last one before we go. Do you think it ever stops? Do you think that corruption ever stops? Do you think
No.
that us, the layman on the bottom of the pile, do you think that we ever have enough courage to say this ends now?
No, because I think people in position will have power, and if you're that way inclined, people will abuse it, and they will be exposed. Okay, but how many will get exposed and how many will not get exposed? That's the thing. Will they all get exposed? I don't think so. I think there'll be quite a few that will get away with it for the rest of their lives.
We're controlled by the media and what the media narrative is. The media narrative, as shown by the government, can be very quickly changed to something else. So right now it's stop the boats. So we're not talking about anything else, or a lot of people are not talking about anything else besides stop the boats. They're not talking about the fact that chocolate digestives are now five quid in some shops. Scandalous, mate. I went for cereal today. It's shocking, the prices. But people are talking about stopping the boats. You know, where the narrative is driven by the media, and until Phillip Schofield is in the headlines, we will talk about it. Next week we'll have forgotten about it and someone else will come up. It will only stop when these people are brought to account by people who control the media narrative, and that's where I don't feel like it will, because I bet by next week no one's talking about Phillip Schofield.
Yeah.
I won't be so sure on that. I think there's more to come for this.
Hopefully.
I think there's more to come. Whether we find it all out, I don't know, but I'm sure there'll be more to come about this.
I think it'll last a bit more than a couple of weeks. So maybe a few more weeks, yes.
Yeah, but it will take someone within that show to be a whistleblower to know, for anything to be proven. Or it will take this lad who's still only 20, but I'm sure his family and he does, they don't want that attention either. And it will only come out. Jimmy Savile only came out when lots and lots and lots of people came out after the fact, because they were scared of the media and the police and no one taking it seriously.
Yeah.
So that's my take on it anyway.
Well, once again, all the things we had planned before this show have gone out the window, and we've followed a track, and this is where it's ended. But I'm sure the story does continue. A little bit heavy this week, that, gents, wasn't it? For a weekday evening.
Nice to get some different viewpoints on it, though.
It is. I like it. Thanks everybody again for listening. If you've got any comments, questions, whatever you may have, send us your opinions on it too. Do you think it's a national treasure that's being made a scapegoat, or do you think there's more to it than meets the eye? Please, once again, YouTube, give us a like, give us a subscribe. Spotify, heart us, subscribe to the channel, and we will be back with episode 8 next week. Thank you, gentlemen, and we'll see you later.
See you later.
Thanks, man.
Bye, everyone.
See you later.